There's a strange phenomenon in life that almost all of us have experienced. The more we chase material possessions, the more we try to accumulate fame, money, or status, the emptier our hearts seem to become. So many people imagine that simply having a big house, a luxurious car, or a high position in society will put happiness within their grasp. Yet, once they achieve these things, they discover a profound emptiness in their souls, a constant restlessness that leaves them perpetually feeling unsatisfied. It is this inability to let go that transforms us into slaves of our desires. The Buddha once taught that human life is only as long as a single breath. If a breath goes in but doesn't come out, life is considered over. Yet we often live as if we will last forever. We worry about countless future matters, blame ourselves for countless past events, and forget the present moment. We forget that peace does not lie in external things, but in our ability to let go from within. One who knows how to let go can find peace even in a single breath. Sometimes, amidst the hurried pace of society, people ask themselves, why am I so tired? Work piles up, relationships are complicated, and emotions often don't meet expectations. We try to save face, accumulate wealth, and uphold flowery promises that sometimes even we no longer believe in. All these things are like a heavy backpack we carry on our shoulders. The more we try to carry, the more our shoulders slump, to the point where we can no longer move forward. In Buddhist teachings, suffering is an inherent reality of human existence, and its deep root cause is greed, anger, and delusion. Our desire for what we don't have, our anger when things don't go our way, and our clinging to illusions of happiness. If we only know how to accumulate without knowing how to release, if we only know how to demand without knowing how to accept, then we will never find true peace throughout our lives. Looking at life, we can see countless people who are materially rich but spiritually poor. They own everything, yet their hearts have no room for serenity. Letting go does not mean rejecting everything or abandoning life. Letting go means knowing how to choose, how to set down unnecessary burdens so that we can move forward lightly. Like a mountain climber, if one stubbornly clings to cumbersome luggage, that person will never reach the summit. But when they dare to leave behind what is not needed, the path ahead becomes wider. Therefore, the journey to find peace is not about seeking something distant, but about returning to oneself, returning to the present breath to learn how to let go, little by little. When we set down anger, we feel lighter. When we know how to stop insatiable desires, we find life less painful. And when we know how to accept, how to smile at undesirable things, then every day becomes a miracle. Dear friend, happiness is not about having everything, but about knowing how to let go of what is unnecessary. Truly wealthy people are not those who hold a lot of possessions in their hands, but those whose hearts are free from suffering. Let's embark on this journey together. The journey of learning to let go, and then realizing that in that detachment, we gain everything we need: serenity, peace, and a free heart. There is a truth that most of us have experienced in life. Sometimes self-respect and saving face become a greater burden than food, clothing, and money. People often live in worry. What do others think of me? We fear losing face, being ridiculed, or being underestimated by others. But have you ever asked yourself if saving face can sustain you, can it bring peace to your heart? In reality, saving face is just an outer coat, while true happiness must stem from inner peace. The more we cling to this outer shell, the more we sometimes harm our inner selves. In life, some sufferings come from precisely our clinging to the need to save face. An unemployed person doesn't dare tell friends for fear of being ridiculed, silently enduring overwhelming pressure to the point of exhaustion. A woman facing marital difficulties tries to appear happy in front of relatives to save her family's reputation, while her heart is broken. Many people who are bankrupt and destitute still try to show off and borrow to maintain a glamorous facade, only to fall into tragedy in the end. Saving face doesn't feed us, nor does it alleviate our suffering. Only a soul that knows how to let go can help us smile, no matter the circumstances. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is attachment. We cling to money, fame, status, and even illusions like saving face. When we cling to it, we live dependent on the perceptions of others, forgetting what we truly need. In the Four Noble Truths, he clearly stated that life is suffering, and the cause of suffering is craving, which is clinging without letting go. Saving face is also a type of clinging. When we cling to it, we tie ourselves to countless vexations. If we learn to let go, we will find freedom. Letting go of the need to save face does not mean losing self-respect, but knowing how to give it its proper value. There's a story that Lin Ung Buddhist Dharma channel wants to tell you. It's the story of Hung, a poor laborer living in the outskirts of the city. He was born into a poor family and had to work odd jobs from a young age to help his parents. As he grew up, he always longed for a stable job to support his family. However, every time he applied for a job, he felt ashamed due to his poverty, simple clothes, and low education. Added to that was the male pride that didn't want to be looked down upon by others. Because of this, he missed many opportunities, wandering from seasonal job to seasonal job, sometimes full, sometimes hungry. One day, he was forced to confront the truth. If he continued to cling to his pride, he would never get the job he wanted. He remembered an acquaintance who worked as a manager in a manufacturing factory. Many times, he thought about asking for help, but swallowed his words, afraid of being called incompetent or being looked down upon. But when his young child fell seriously ill and needed money for treatment, he had no other choice. For the first time in his life, he humbly knocked on his acquaintance's door, honestly explained his difficulties, and asked for an opportunity. The manager was silent for a moment, then said, "Hung, you should have done this sooner. I always wanted to help you, but you never asked." From that day on, he had a stable job with enough salary to support his family. Initially, he felt ashamed thinking about having to ask for help, but then he realized that bowing his head was not a sign of weakness, but an act of courage. Courage to put down the ego, to clearly see the path underfoot, to realize that happiness is not about saving face, but about knowing how to humble oneself at the right time. Hung's story makes us reflect deeply. In life, sometimes a simple bow can open a whole new door. People often say that tall trees catch the wind and low water flows smoothly. When we know how to humble ourselves, we learn more easily, and we receive new lessons from others more readily. Arrogant people often stand still, while humble people advance step by step. If we know how to let go of the need to save face, it will become an opportunity for us to grow. Practicing letting go of the need to save face does not mean living without self-respect, but knowing how to distinguish between self-respect worth keeping and useless pride that should be abandoned. Self-respect helps us live a valuable life, but pride often only causes us suffering. Humbly bowing to learn, to admit mistakes, to ask for help, to understand, does not make us smaller. On the contrary, it makes our hearts bigger. Just think, a person who doesn't know how to ask for help, doesn't dare admit mistakes, and never bows their head, is only building a wall of loneliness around themselves. But a person who dares to humble themselves always has companions, always receives love and empathy. Life is short. The Buddha reminded us that life is as fragile as a breath. So why cling to saving face and miss so many opportunities to live happily? Try to be courageous once, put down your ego, and you will find yourself liberated from a great burden. When we let go of the need to save face, we are no longer obsessed by the gaze of others. When we let go of the need to save face, we can be honest with ourselves. And when we let go of the need to save face, we truly mature. So, dear friend, if today you are suffering because of your pride, remember that it cannot sustain you. It won't make you more peaceful, but only makes you more tired. Only those who dare to bow their heads can clearly see the path beneath their feet. Sometimes, bowing your head is the beginning of a new journey. Try setting down that burden, and you will find life much lighter. And from learning to bow your head, you will learn even more on the journey of letting go to continue finding peace in your soul. There's something that all of us, more or less, have felt. Life today seems to be increasingly filled with pressure. From the moment we open our eyes in the morning until night falls, we are constantly drawn into thoughts about work, studies, money, family, and the expectations of others. Some people work from 8 a.m. until late at night, their minds always stretched taut like a guitar string. Some mothers worry about food, clothing, and money, while also worrying about their children's education, leaving them no time to even breathe easily throughout the day. Then, countless young people, just starting their lives, carry the pressure to succeed, to prove themselves, to stand out. And so, they live in an endless race. Only when they look back do they realize they've lost their peace somewhere along the way. What's worth noting is that often pressure doesn't just come from external circumstances, but largely stems from our own uncleaned minds. Like a room, if left uncleaned for a long time, dust will cover everything, and light cannot enter. The human soul is the same. When we accumulate too many worries, too many thoughts, too many desires, without knowing how to release them, our inner self becomes dark and crowded. Even if it's calm outside, a storm still rages within. The Buddha once taught that the deep root cause of suffering is a mind that doesn't know how to let go, constantly clinging to what isn't real. Pressure is also a form of clinging. We worry because we want everything to be perfect. We are afraid of loss. And we are restless because we don't believe in karma, cause and effect. But life is inherently impermanent. Nothing is entirely within our control. If we look back, we will see that in the Four Noble Truths, Suffering is the first truth of life. But suffering is not to be lamented, but to be recognized. When we clearly see suffering, we will find its cause. Pressure is a manifestation of suffering, and its cause is greed, anger, and delusion in our minds. Greed makes us want more than we can bear. Anger makes us irritable when things don't go our way. Delusion makes us dim-witted, unable to see the true nature of life. Instead of letting go, we keep adding to it, piling burdens on our own shoulders. The story of Ms. Lan will help us understand this better. She was an accountant at a large company. Her daily work involved dry numbers and endless balance sheets. Initially, she worked very enthusiastically, but gradually, work pressure made her tired. Every night, she tossed and turned, unable to sleep, her mind swirling with dozens of unfinished deadlines, worried she would make a mistake. Her small house also gradually became cluttered. Her bedroom was filled with clothes, books, and unprocessed invoices. Sometimes, she sighed, looking at the room, feeling as if it mirrored her own soul. Chaotic, with no space to breathe. One day, in extreme exhaustion, she decided to start with a small task, cleaning her room. She neatly folded stacks of clothes, wiped away every speck of dust, and opened the window to let light and wind pour in. Surprisingly, as the room brightened, her heart also felt lighter. She suddenly realized that external pressure was not as frightening as the disorder within her mind. And to cleanse the mind, one only needs to learn to let go of each tangled mess, just like tidying up unnecessary items. From that day on, she practiced sitting still every evening, taking a deep breath and releasing her fatigue with her exhale. Initially, it was just 5 minutes, then 10 minutes. Gradually, she found sleep came more easily, and work became lighter. Not because her work decreased, but because her mind was less burdened. Miss Lan's story gives us a very clear image. The mind is like a room. The more cluttered it is, the more suffocating it becomes. But just by knowing how to clean it, light will flood in. Letting go of pressure is similar. It's not about abandoning all responsibilities, but learning to organize, learning to breathe, and learning to accept that some things are beyond our control, and that it's normal for things not to go as planned. When we know how to sit in mindfulness, each incoming and outgoing breath becomes a broom sweeping away the dust in our minds. So, how can we practice letting go of pressure in daily life? First, give yourself breaks in the hustle and bustle of work. Stop for a few minutes to breathe, to be aware that you are still alive. Don't wait until you are exhausted to rest. See rest as part of your work. Second, practice living more simply. Much pressure comes from wanting too many things at once. When we learn to filter, to say no to what is not needed, we will feel lighter. Third, believe in karma, cause and effect. Do your best in the present. As for the outcome, let it unfold naturally. When we are not overly attached to success or failure, we will worry less. And finally, cultivate compassion. When the mind is directed towards goodness, when we know how to share and be tolerant, pressure also becomes much smaller. Dear friend, external pressure has never been able to defeat a person. Only inner disorder can make us stumble. But when the mind is cleansed and the heart becomes clear, then no matter how fierce the storms outside, we can still find peace. Remember that a peaceful mind leads to a peaceful life. When you find inner peace, you will see all pressures as merely clouds drifting across a vast sky. And in that journey, when we learn to let go of pressure, we will also learn to let go of many other things, to delve deeper into the path of truly finding happiness. Each person's life is like a river, sometimes flowing quietly and smoothly, sometimes surging with fierce waves. On that journey, everyone carries memories, stories, joys intertwined with sorrows in their hearts. Some memories are beautiful, like a full moon, making us smile every time we recall them. But there are also fragile memories, like shards of glass. Every time we touch them, we feel a fresh wound. How many times in life have you sat quietly, looking back at the past, wishing that you had done things differently, wishing that you had said different words that day, wishing that you had held on to someone or something? But the more you wish, the heavier your heart becomes. It's like holding a hot coal tightly in your hand. The tighter you hold it, the more pain you feel. Whereas if you just let it go, the pain will subside. The Buddha once taught that people suffer because their minds often cling to what no longer exists. The past is just a trace, the shadow of a tree that has long gone. That shadow cannot be embraced, much less replace the present. But people are often prone to regrets and self-reproach that keep them trapped in a vicious cycle of suffering. The nature of life is impermanence, meaning everything changes. Nothing lasts forever. No one walks with us all the way. When we understand impermanence, we realize that letting go of the past does not mean denying it, but cherishing it with tranquility to move forward on the present path with a light heart. There is a story that Zen Buddhist Dharma channel wants to tell you. A true story from everyday life. Mr. Min, now over 60, once had a happy life with his late wife. They went through many hardships together, built a small home, and raised their children. However, a few years ago, she passed away due to a serious illness. The day she died, Mr. Min felt as if he had lost half of his life. He no longer cared for any other joy, nor did he want to step out into the world. Every day, he would just sit in his small room, holding a picture of his deceased wife, gazing blankly at it, only to sink into inconsolable sorrow. For him, the past was everything, and he believed that only by holding on to it could he feel that he was still with her. But because of this, he no longer knew the present. He no longer saw his young grandchildren growing up day by day, nor did he hear the affectionate calls of his children longing for their father to smile again. One day, by chance, Mr. Min was invited by a friend to listen to a Dharma talk at a nearby pagoda. Initially, he was very reluctant, thinking that nothing could change the pain in his heart. But during that talk, the abbot shared that the past is like a passing cloud. Holding on to it does no good, and regretting it only causes more suffering. Our loved ones have gone far away, but if we live in sorrow, we are letting that pain continue to spread to those who are still with us. Remember, the deceased also wish for our peace, not for us to imprison ourselves in a dungeon of tears. Those words were like a cool breeze blowing into his dry soul. He suddenly realized that for many years he had lived without truly living. He had only clung to a photograph, a shadow that was no longer present, he began to try to change, not forgetting his wife, but learning to smile. Whenever he thought of her, instead of letting the past hold him back, he transformed it into motivation to live better. Spending time playing with his grandchildren, participating in charity activities, and helping less fortunate people. From then on, Mr. Min was no longer as thin and haggard as before. His eyes lit up when he talked about his grandchildren. His smile was warm when he recounted helping a struggling family rebuild their house after a storm. He said, "It turns out that letting go of the past is not forgetting my wife, but letting my love for her become a flowing current that gives strength to the present." Thanks to letting go, he lived more fully. And by living fully, he truly felt joy. Mr. Min's story is clear proof that the past should only be a cherished memory, not a binding chain. If you embrace the past with torment, you are like someone carrying a backpack full of rocks on your shoulders, taking heavy steps, never seeing the beautiful scenery along the way. But if you know how to take off that backpack, the path ahead will open wide, and you will be able to breathe fresh air and enjoy the sunlight. In Buddhism, there is a very familiar concept called present moment awareness, or mindfulness of the present. The Buddha taught us to live mindfully, to return to the present moment, because only in this moment are we truly present. The past is gone. The future has not yet arrived. Only the present is the reality we are touching. If we let the past dominate, we will miss this moment. And then, one day, we will regret not having lived fully. You can practice letting go of the past with small but meaningful steps. Try each morning when you wake up. Instead of thinking about yesterday's mistakes, smile and whisper to yourself, "Today, I start anew." Try when sad memories flood back, not to chase them away nor to cling to them, but simply watch them like a cloud drifting across the sky, letting them dissipate on their own. Try to spend time doing things that bring joy to others. Because when we bring joy to someone, that is when we heal the wounds in our own hearts. Many people ask if it's possible to completely forget the past. The answer is no need to forget, because memories are a part of us. But let them rest quietly in the compartment of your soul, like a book already read. Occasionally open it, smile, then close it. This life is not for forever regretting an old chapter, but for continuing to write new pages full of hope. If you have experienced loss, try to think that your loved one is still watching over you, wishing you peace. If you have failed, see it as a lesson for you to grow. If you have suffered in a relationship, see it as an opportunity to learn to love yourself. Every past will become a seed, and you are the one who decides where to sow it, whether it will grow into beautiful flowers or weeds. Letting go of the past is a journey. It cannot be successful in just a day or two. Sometimes you think you have let go, but then memories suddenly return, bringing tears to your eyes. Don't blame yourself for being weak, because that is natural. The important thing is that you realize you don't want to be imprisoned by the past forever. You are gradually walking out of the dark room towards the light. Remember that time is the most precious thing in life. Every breath is a gift. The Buddha once reminded us that human life is only as long as a single breath. This means that if we let this breath get caught in the past, we have lost the living moment. But if we know how to cherish each breath, how to let go of old burdens, then each breath becomes a peaceful note in the symphony of life. Dear friend, it's time we learn to smile at the past. Whether that past was a beautiful flower or a deep wound, it is over. Let it be a precious teacher. But don't let it become chains. When you can let go of the past, you will see how bright the present becomes. You will see how precious your loved ones around you are, and you will feel your heart as light as a bird soaring in the sky. And when the heart is freed from the shackles of yesterday, we will ask ourselves, if the past no longer holds us back, what in the present is troubling us? Those are the worries, pressures, and competitive desires of daily life. In the flow of life, alongside those who always shine with confidence, there are also many who live silently with complexes and low self-esteem. Perhaps you've seen those shy eyes, those trembling hands when having to speak in front of a crowd, or heard phrases like, "I'm not worthy. I'm not as good as anyone. I can't do anything at all." These whispers don't come from others' mouths, but from deep within our own minds. And these repetitive thoughts gradually become chains binding us, making us withdraw, not daring to step out, not daring to reach for things, missing countless opportunities to live a fulfilling life. In this competitive society, low self-esteem often stems from comparison. People see others as more successful, more talented, more beautiful, wealthier than themselves. And when they compare themselves, they feel small, feeling they have nothing valuable. Some, due to poverty, had to wear old clothes to school, while their friends wore new ones. Thus, feelings of inferiority crept into their hearts from a very young age. Some, as adults, see colleagues their age getting promoted while they are still struggling. So they tell themselves they are incompetent. Some, due to an unsatisfactory appearance, are shy in social interactions, always bowing their heads. And so, low self-esteem clings to them like a shadow. Wherever we go, whatever we do, it follows. The Buddha once taught that every sentient being possesses Buddha nature. This means that each of us inherently has the light of wisdom and compassion. It is only due to ignorance, to the covering of greed, anger, and delusion, and to the suffering we experience, that this light is obscured. But it is not lost. A seed, even if buried under dry earth, still holds the potential to sprout when rain falls. Similarly, even if you feel small and useless, there is a precious energy within you that, if nurtured, will shine brightly. The problem is not that you are incompetent, but that you have forgotten your true worth. There is an everyday story that Lin Buddhist Dharma channel wants to tell you about a boy named Nam in a poor village. Nam was born into a disadvantaged family. His parents were farmers all year round, their income barely enough for simple meals. Nam loved drawing, but didn't have pencils or colored paper like his friends. Every time he went to class and saw his friends holding vibrant color boxes, Nam felt out of place. One time, when the teacher organized a painting session, Nam just sat and watched because he had no paper or pens. A deep sadness welled up in the boy's heart, thinking, "I'll probably never get to draw, like my friends." But then one day, the teacher noticed Nam often sitting in a corner, his eyes lighting up when he watched his friends draw. The teacher then gave Nam a piece of white chalk and said, "Try drawing on the blackboard." Initially, Nam was shy, but then he took the chalk and drew. Simple lines gradually formed a rural landscape. A house, a river, bamboo groves, flying storks. The whole class marveled. The teacher smiled. From that day on, the teacher allowed Nam to draw on the blackboard every lesson. Gradually, Nam no longer bowed his head out of shame, but held it high, knowing that he too had talent, only needing to be nurtured. Nam's story makes us realize that low self-esteem is like a layer of dust covering a precious jewel. If the dust remains, the jewel will forever be dim, but just wipe it away, and its light will be revealed. Nam did not have material advantages, but his talent and love for art were no less than anyone else's. And it was the encouragement and belief that the teacher gave him that helped him brush away the dust of low self-esteem so that the jewel in his heart could shine. In Buddhist teachings, there is a truth called the Four Noble Truths: suffering, its origin, its cessation, and the path to its cessation. Low self-esteem is also a type of suffering. This suffering arises from comparison, social prejudices, and the criticisms we have heard. But if we can identify this cause, we will see a way out. The Buddha never taught us to deny suffering. Instead, he showed us how to look directly at it to find a way out. Letting go of low self-esteem doesn't mean forcing ourselves to be strong immediately, but gradually recognizing our inherent worth and nurturing belief in ourselves. Remember that low self-esteem is a binding rope, but it only binds when we voluntarily allow it to. If you believe you are inferior, you will act like an inferior person. But if you believe there's light within you, your words and actions will gradually change. In Buddhism, there's a beautiful saying, "The mind is the forerunner of all states." This means that as our mind thinks, so our life will follow that direction. If your mind is filled with low self-esteem, your life will be narrow. But if your mind is full of confidence, every step you take will open up new possibilities. You can start the journey of letting go of low self-esteem with small practices. Every morning when you look in the mirror, don't rush to find your flaws, but try to look at one thing you are grateful for about yourself. Perhaps it's a kind smile, empathetic eyes, or simply the patience you once had. Every time you accomplish something, no matter how small, tell yourself, "I did it." Don't wait for anyone to recognize you. Acknowledge yourself first. And most importantly, remember the Buddha's teaching that all sentient beings have Buddha nature. This means you inherently carry an invaluable worth that no one can take away. Some people are born into poverty, but still show great merit simply by having an open heart. They may not have much money to give in charity, but they can offer a smile, words of comfort, a helping hand. In the scriptures, the Buddha once reminded that giving is not always about wealth, but can be about compassion. The poorest can also give because they can give love. And this act of giving is a way to nurture self-confidence, because we realize that we are not useless, but can do meaningful things for life. If you are living with low self-esteem, try to remember the boy Nam. He once bowed his head in poverty, but then held it high thanks to nurtured belief. And you are the same. You just need to believe in the light within yourself. Perhaps that light is not yet strong enough to dispel the darkness, but if you care for it, nurture it, one day it will shine brightly. Dear friend, letting go of low self-esteem is not easy, but it is an essential journey for us to live a fulfilling life. When we let go of low self-esteem, we will see confidence blossom. And when confident, we will dare to live, dare to love, dare to contribute. In life, perhaps all of us have had days when we wanted to lie in bed, postpone work, or put aside planned projects. Sometimes rest is necessary. But if rest turns into a habit of laziness, it becomes like an invisible shackles, binding both our body and mind. Many people complain that their lives never change, their careers don't advance, relationships gradually drift apart, and health deteriorates. They feel unfair to themselves, blame circumstances, and complain about everything. But few bother to look deep within themselves to see that the cause sometimes doesn't lie externally, but stems from laziness that has deeply permeated daily life. Laziness is like a stagnant pond. Initially, it seems quiet without waves, but the longer it sits, the more it becomes murky, smelly, and breeds bacteria. Lazy people are the same. At first glance, they seem to be enjoying comfort. But inside, there is stagnation. Their souls are no longer clear, and their spirits are tired. They miss opportunities, overlook precious moments where they could train their body and mind. Laziness makes a day feel long and drawn out, but a lifetime passes quickly, leaving nothing but regret. In Buddhist teachings, laziness is considered one of the great obstacles on the path of spiritual practice. When our minds are lax and unwilling to strive, we easily become led by vexations and desires. The Buddha once taught that if people are not diligent in cultivating the Dharma, evil minds grow strong, just as weeds grow rampant in uncultivated fields. Diligence is one of the 5 spiritual faculties and 5 powers. These 5 fundamental powers help practitioners overcome suffering to achieve peace and liberation. Conversely, laziness depletes both merit and wisdom, causing people to drift endlessly in the cycle of samsara. Let's look around. If a young person constantly sleeps in, neglects studies and work, will their future be wide open? If a parent only complains about being tired and suffering, but doesn't bother to maintain their health, and then one day illness strikes, who will take care of the family? If a practitioner only recites scriptures and chants Buddha's name by mouth, but doesn't practice mindfulness in every action, their spiritual path will only be a formality. All of this stems from laziness, the root of stagnation and suffering. Some people say, "I'm not lazy, I just want to rest and be healthy." But rest is different from laziness. Rest is for regenerating energy, while laziness is escaping, letting time pass without doing anything useful. Rest makes us stronger, while laziness gradually weakens us. We sometimes comfort ourselves by saying, "Oh well, I can do it tomorrow." But that tomorrow repeats endlessly. And eventually, a whole life passes by unfinished. Lin Ung Buddhist Dharma channel remembers the story of an acquaintance named Tung. He was a kind, diligent worker, but he had a very bad habit: extreme physical laziness. Every day after work, he only wanted to lie on the couch, watch TV, or scroll on his phone to pass the time. When friends invited him to play sports, he always refused, citing busyness. His wife advised him many times, but he just smiled it off. Then, one day, he went for a routine health checkup. The doctor looked at the test results and shook his head, saying, "High cholesterol, fatty liver, and warning signs of heart disease." He was startled upon hearing this. For the first time, he felt afraid thinking about his future if he continued to live so carelessly. The next day, Tung decided to change. He didn't set overly ambitious goals or force himself to exercise a lot immediately. He just started with something small, running for 10 minutes every morning. Initially, his legs felt heavy, his breathing was short, and he was drenched in sweat, making him want to give up. But remembering the doctor's words and his wife's worried eyes, he told himself to persevere. Then, 10 minutes turned into 15 minutes, 15 minutes into half an hour. His body gradually became stronger, his mind clearer, his sleep deeper, and his work more effective. He found joy in every step he ran, in every energetic morning. After 6 months, his health indicators significantly improved. Friends who met him again were surprised by his transformation. He realized a simple but profound truth. Just starting with a small task, persevering every day, will transform life. Tung's story is perhaps also a mirror for many of us. We sometimes think that to change our lives, we must do something truly grand. But the truth lies in small actions repeated daily. As the Buddha once taught, a single drop of water falling continuously can fill a jar. If we let go of laziness and diligently strive in small matters, then each day will become meaningful, and our entire life will gradually brighten with peace. A Buddhist practitioner should view every ordinary task as an opportunity for practice. When washing dishes, we can practice mindfulness, feeling each stream of water. When sweeping the house, we can see it as sweeping away the dust from our minds. When walking, running, or exercising, we are nourishing both body and mind so that the body is healthy and the mind becomes more stable. Diligence is not about working tirelessly to exhaustion, but about living consciously, not being lax, not abandoning our lives to stagnant habits. If life is compared to a field, then laziness is weeds, and diligence is seeds. One who does not sow seeds, only waiting for luck, will see only weeds throughout their life. But one who patiently sows each virtuous seed, caring for it every day, will sooner or later harvest sweet fruits. Lin Ung Buddhist Dharma. Channel knows that in today's era, many people are easily caught up in the whirl of phones, social media, and entertainment. They spend hours scrolling through useless things, but are reluctant to spend 10 minutes taking deep breaths, doing a light exercise, or reading a page of a book. This habit seems harmless, but over time, it erodes both physical and mental health. That is a very common form of modern laziness that we need to be mindful of and let go of. So how to cultivate diligence? First, start with small, manageable goals, but be persistent. Don't demand yourself to change overnight, but get used to gradual progress. Second, turn every action into an opportunity for practice. Don't think that spiritual practice is only sitting in meditation or chanting scriptures. Even waking up early, neatly folding your blankets, walking, and breathing mindfully are all practice. Third, find a sufficiently strong reason for yourself. Like Tung, by remembering his health and family, he gained more motivation to overcome stagnation. Fourth, remind yourself of impermanence. Each passing day is one day less in a person's life. If we remain lazy, we will regret it when time is lost. When we can let go of laziness, we will feel light in body and mind. Work will flow smoothly, and relationships will also improve. Diligent and active people often radiate positive energy, making others want to be close to them and cooperate with them. Such a person also easily overcomes challenges because they are not used to giving up in the face of difficulties. They are like a flowing river, always clear, cool, and knowing how to meander to reach the great ocean. So, if today you are still hesitant to start, remember Tung's story. Remember that even one first step is different from standing still. Just one small habit can change an entire life. The important thing is whether you dare to let go of the laziness that is binding you. Life doesn't wait for anyone. Time flows like a river, endlessly. A person who knows how to strive diligently is one who knows how to steer their life's boat towards the light. A lazy person remains stuck at the old dock, leaving their boat to rot. The choice is ours. But remember, only when we let go of laziness can we truly grasp the key to open the door to peace and happiness. Zen Buddhist Dharma. Channel wants to tell you, start today. Don't wait until tomorrow. Even a small act is enough to sow good seeds, because as long as you strive diligently, your life will transform day by day, and in the light of diligence, you will find true peace. This life inherently has many difficulties. If we let our hearts be filled with negative thoughts, it's like blocking our own path to happiness. Think back. How many times in your life have you complained that you were too unlucky, too miserable, while countless beautiful things were present that you didn't even notice? Sometimes, an unintentional remark from someone can make us sad all day. Sometimes, a small failure is enough for us to blame ourselves endlessly. And so, we let our minds fall into a vortex of negativity. But the tighter we hold on to negativity, the narrower our hearts become. Our good fortune wanes, and joy drifts further away. The Buddha taught that suffering originates from greed, anger, and delusion. Greed makes us want too much. Anger makes us easily irritable. Delusion prevents us from seeing the true nature of things. Negativity is the fertile ground for these three fires to ignite. Once we let them flare up, we easily view life through a distorted lens, seeing only darkness surrounding us, forgetting that life is not entirely rosy, nor entirely black. It's like the sky, sometimes sunny, sometimes rainy. But if we only look at the gray clouds and don't notice the sunlight behind them, we will forever live in darkness. I want to tell you the story of Ms. Hoa, who sold vegetables at a small market. Ms. Hoa was diligent. Every day she woke up early to cut vegetables from her garden and bring them to the market. But because her vegetables often sold slowly and customers bought little, she frequently complained to everyone that business was bad, that her life was miserable, that no one appreciated her efforts. When people came to buy vegetables, she would sadly complain about the rain damaging the vegetables or the low prices not yielding a profit. Gradually, Customers became reluctant to buy from her because hearing her complaints made them tired. The more vegetables went unsold, the more discouraged she became. A friend, seeing this, advised her, "Sister, try to change the way you speak. Stop complaining. Smile, say pleasant words, and customers will feel the joy from you. And they will want to buy more." Ms. Hoa listened and tried it. From that day on, when customers arrived, she smiled brightly and said, "These vegetables are so fresh today. Choose some, and they'll make a delicious soup." Customers, seeing her cheerful, also felt comfortable. Gradually, more people came to buy her vegetables. Business prospered, and her spirits lifted. And she realized that her own mood had affected everything around her. When the mind is bright, life naturally brightens. Negativity only pulls us down. That simple story reflects a profound truth in life. When we sow seeds of negativity, our words and actions also become negative. Others who approach will feel that energy and naturally keep their distance. Just like a room with closed windows cannot let light in. The more we close our hearts in darkness, the harder it is to receive joy. But if we open up, if we smile, if we look at life with a positive outlook, happiness will find us. In the scriptures, the Buddha once taught that the mind is like a garden. If we diligently sow seeds of anger, resentment, and envy, that garden will only grow weeds, making us tired. But if we sow seeds of compassion, tolerance, faith, and hope, that garden will blossom brilliantly, becoming a sanctuary for ourselves and all who enter. Letting go of negativity is like pulling out weeds, replacing barren soil with fresh seeds so that the garden of the mind can bloom. Have you noticed? Some people fall into the same difficult circumstances, but their attitude determines different outcomes. One person looks at challenges with pessimism, thinking their life is over, unable to recover. But another, though also suffering, maintains the belief that this is just a lesson, that after the rain, the sky will clear. And that optimism helps them find ways to overcome difficulties faster. They are not bound by negativity, but let faith guide them. For example, during the pandemic, many people panicked, feared, and blamed fate. But there were also those who remained calm, accepted it, and then found ways to take care of themselves, their families, and share with the community. They weathered the storm with a lighter mindset because they chose light instead of darkness. In reality, life never completely goes our way. If we wait until there are no more sorrows to be happy, then we probably won't have time to be happy at all throughout our lives. Remember the Buddha's teaching? Suffering is an obvious truth of life that no one can avoid. But the important thing is how we face suffering. If we cling to it in our hearts, it will become a crushing burden. If we let go, seeing it as a lesson, then suffering becomes an opportunity for us to grow. Like someone learning to swim, if they are afraid of drowning and don't dare to enter the water, they will never learn to swim. But when they dare to let themselves go, dare to learn little by little, they will eventually swim across the river. Negativity is the rope that holds us back, and letting it go is the first step for us to reach the shore of peace. You can start with very small things. Instead of complaining, "Today is terrible," try saying, "Although today has difficulties, I'm still okay." Instead of blaming others for making you sad, try thinking that thanks to them, you learned to be more patient. Instead of focusing on what's lacking, remember what you have. This small change in thought will illuminate your soul, making everything lighter. From there, positive energy will spread, bringing you good connections and good people. Zen Buddhist. Dharma channel knows that sometimes you will find it hard to do so, because negativity has become a long-standing habit. But please believe, just like a long, darkened room, only one candle lit will prevent the darkness from remaining intact. Then, from one candle, you light many others, and the room will become radiant. Every positive thought you sow today is a candle in your soul. Although small at first, if persistent, it will replace darkness with light. The Buddha once taught that as our mind is, so is the world around us. If our minds are full of resentment, life will be full of injustice. If our minds have love, life will become warm. The truth is that the world does not change according to our will. But we can change our perspective. And when our perspective changes, our whole life changes. Just like Ms. Hoa selling vegetables, just by changing her way of speaking, she changed her business fortunes. It's that small, yet its power is immense. So instead of clinging to negativity, try to practice transformation. When a sad thought arises, replace it with a small belief. When you feel resentment, replace it with tolerance. When you feel narrow-minded, try to open your heart and share. Each time you do so, you are taking another step out of the darkness, bringing yourself closer to peace. Remember that letting go is not abandoning, but knowing how to release what causes us suffering. Negativity is such a burden. Letting go of negativity not only makes our minds lighter, but also helps our merit grow. Cheerful and tolerant people often attract good friends and favorable opportunities, and work goes more smoothly. That's not magic, but karma. Positive seeds sown in life will sprout into sweet fruits. Negative seeds sown in life will only bring us suffering, and the choice of which seeds to sow is entirely in our hands. Let Zen Buddhist Dharma channel remind you of one short sentence. When your mind is bright, life will be bright. Try to live like sunshine, not holding darkness in your heart, and then you will see life also gently smiling at you. In life, it's likely that more than once you've felt your heart hurt by the words or actions of others. A close friend suddenly betrays you. A colleague spreads rumors. A neighbor fabricates untrue stories. Or even family members sometimes hurt us, and then we carry resentment in our hearts. It's like a wound that refuses to heal, growing deeper and deeper, making us view life with a heavy heart. Many people think that holding on to resentment reminds them not to be deceived again, or proves that they are not easily underestimated. But the truth is entirely the opposite. Resentment is like a fire that burns down the peaceful home within our souls. Holding on to it is like imprisoning ourselves in a furnace, being burned from within day after day. The Buddha once taught that the source of suffering lies in the three poisons: greed, anger, and delusion. Greed is wanting to possess, wanting more, wanting life to go our way. Anger is rage, resentment, irritation. Delusion is ignorance, failing to see the truth, letting ignorance lead the way. Among these three poisons, anger can sometimes be the most dangerous, because a burst of anger can destroy everything we have built up for so long. It not only erodes goodwill in others' hearts, but also diminishes accumulated merit. A single flame of anger can burn down a forest of good deeds. Therefore, practitioners must first learn to counteract anger, to know how to let go of resentment. Because if not, all efforts in spiritual practice, all virtuous deeds sown, will also be consumed by that fire. I want to tell you an everyday story. Ms. Han lived in a peaceful neighborhood. She was kind, diligent, typically running a small business at the market during the day and taking care of her family in the evening. But one time, due to a small conflict over using a shared alley, her neighbor fabricated stories, telling everyone that Ms. Han was selfish and only thought of herself. The rumors spread, and many people looked at her differently. She was utterly furious. A fire of anger ignited in her heart. She vowed never to speak to that neighbor again. From then on, every time she passed by, she intentionally turned away without greeting. For many years, she carried a heavy stone in her heart called resentment. During the day, busy with work, she might forget it for a bit. But whenever she remembered, her heart felt tangled, unable to find peace. Then one day, she heard that the neighbor was seriously ill, and everyone in the neighborhood was buzzing with talk. Initially, she thought to herself that it was retribution for the false accusations the neighbor had made against her. But then, during a long, sleepless night, she asked herself if she continued to hold on to this resentment. How was she different from that person who had harbored ill will before? This thought made her sit up. The next morning, she bought some fruit and went to visit her neighbor. At first, the neighbor was astonished, unable to believe it, but then saw the sincerity in Ms. Han's eyes. The neighbor burst into tears. It turned out that years ago, due to jealousy and misunderstanding, the neighbor had spoken malicious words. Only when seriously ill did the neighbor feel regret, but didn't dare to apologize. Thanks to Ms. Han's initiative, both of them untied the knot in their hearts. From then on, they could look at each other with more understanding and relief. And Ms. Han herself realized that forgiveness wasn't for others, but for her own heart to find peace. That story makes us realize something. The person who hurt us might have long forgotten, but we ourselves cling to resentment and thus cause ourselves suffering. It's like holding a hot coal in our hand, hoping to throw it at the other person. But before we can throw it, our own hand is burned. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting everything that happened, but not letting it continue to imprison us in suffering. Forgiveness also doesn't mean condoning mistakes, but simply letting go of the burden in our hearts so we can walk freely. It is a gift we give to ourselves, not just to the other person. In Buddhist teachings, everything that happens has a cause and condition. The person who hurts us is not random. Perhaps it is the result of an old karma we once sowed, and now it has come to fruition. If we respond with anger, the cycle of resentment will continue endlessly. But if we respond with forgiveness, we break a link in the chain of karmic results, opening a new path for both us and the other person. Viewed this way, the person who causes us suffering is also a teacher, teaching us the lesson of tolerance and letting go. In fact, when we hold resentment in our hearts, we always think we have the upper hand. We tell ourselves that we cannot forgive those who have hurt us. That's only fair. But in reality, it's just an illusion. Because the tighter we hold on, the deeper we sink into a sea of suffering. Resentment takes the place of peace, leaving no room for joy in the soul. Many people, due to resentment, lose sleep and appetite. Their health deteriorates, and illnesses follow. You see, holding resentment doesn't harm anyone but ourselves. There is a beautiful image often used to describe resentment: a heavy stone backpack. Every day, we add more stones, remembering hurtful words, thinking of injustices, gnawing at our pain. The backpack gets heavier and heavier, making us tired wherever we go. If someone asks, we tell them about it, adding another layer to our self-inflicted burden. But if one day we decide to put that backpack down, we suddenly feel light, walking effortlessly. Letting go of resentment is like that. No one forces us to carry that backpack forever. We voluntarily embrace it. And when we voluntarily let go, happiness returns. Of course, forgiveness is not easy. Sometimes the wound is too deep, lasting too many years, seemingly impossible to heal. But start with small things. Instead of dwelling on the mistakes, think that the other person is also just human, also capable of error. Instead of telling yourself you were wronged, see it as a lesson for your growth. Instead of expecting an apology, give yourself freedom first. Because, as the Buddha once taught, no one can make us suffer unless we allow it. As long as we don't allow resentment to dominate our hearts, then no matter what anyone does, we can still find peace. You can practice forgiveness by contemplating impermanence. See how short human life is. Things that seem huge today may be nothing tomorrow. The person who once hurt you will also grow old and also leave this world. How much time do you have left to live that you would waste it in resentment? Why not use it to love, to share, to enjoy the beautiful things around you? Forgiveness, after all, is a wise choice so that we don't lose the precious days of our lives. A small piece of advice for you. Try writing down your resentment. Write everything without holding back, then read it and burn it as a ritual of letting go. Or sit quietly, close your eyes, imagine the person in front of you, and send them wishes for peace. You might be surprised, but when we truly wish happiness for the other person, our own heart also softens and feels lighter. That is how we release. Forgiveness is not just an external action, but more importantly, an internal transformation. Finally, remember that letting go of resentment is not for anyone else's benefit, but for your own peace. Forgiveness does not make us weak. On the contrary, it is the great strength of an open heart. A person who knows how to forgive is one who has risen above their own anger, who has conquered themselves. And in that way, they are truly free. You see, life is inherently short. Don't let a resentful heart imprison you in suffering. Let your heart be light like the wind, vast like the clouds, clear like a stream. Forgive to once step out of the darkness and see the light of freedom shining in your heart. For only when we let go of resentment can our hearts truly find peace. Perhaps all of us, at least once in our lives, have experienced standing at a crossroads, unsure which path to take. The heart wants to move forward, but reason holds us back, fearing all sorts of things. This hesitation causes many opportunities to slip away, like a bird flying across the sky. If we pause for just a moment, when we look up, its shadow is no longer there. life is not long. Each day passes like water flowing. Yet, people spend too much time hesitating, weighing options, tormenting themselves in the vicious cycle of indecision. People often complain that life doesn't give them opportunities, but in fact, many opportunities have come. Only we didn't seize them because we lacked resolve, hesitating, like standing before a train about to depart. We think a few more minutes of thought won't hurt. But then, in a flash, the door closes, the wheels turn, and we can only watch with regret. This hesitation is also like an invisible rope binding us, preventing us from flying even with wings, from daring to reach out even with aspirations. In Buddhist teachings, much of human suffering stems from ignorance, from the habit of constantly dwelling in the cycle of delusive thoughts. When a thought arises before we can act, 100,000 other thoughts rush in, comparing, fearing failure, afraid of being ridiculed by others. Because of this, our minds are never at peace, and our feet are held back by the dust of self-created doubt. The Buddha once taught that human life is as short as a breath. We breathe in, but are not sure if we will breathe out. Yet, we waste so many precious breaths on procrastination, while just one courageous step can open a new door. I remember the story of a friend named Fong. Fong was a good employee in a company, but he always felt uncomfortable. Day after day, his work was repetitive, lacked creativity, and the environment was restrictive. Many times, he thought about changing jobs, finding a new place where he could fully utilize his abilities. But then he hesitated. The reasons were countless. Fear of not being good enough, fear that the new company wouldn't be suitable, fear that starting over would be harder than his current situation. Because of this, year after year, he kept procrastinating, letting his dreams be buried under the dust of apprehension. One time, he planned to visit his parents in his hometown. The night before, he debated for a long time whether to book the bus ticket early, afraid that if his plans changed, he would lose money. He thought it wouldn't be too late to book it tomorrow. The next morning, when he arrived at the bus station, the bus was full. He had to watch the train depart with annoyance. That night, he sat alone, his heart heavy. He suddenly realized that opportunities in life were just like that train. If we hesitate, it will leave us behind and be gone, never turning back to wait. In that very moment, he decided to change. A few weeks later, he boldly applied for a new company, a place where he had hesitated for a long time before. Surprisingly, he was accepted. And then his career took a completely different turn, more expansive, more free, truly aligning with his abilities. Fong's story is not grand, but it contains a valuable lesson. We often fear that if we take a step, we will make a mistake. But in reality, mistakes are just experiences that help us grow. Meanwhile, not daring to take a step is the greatest loss, because we will never know what we missed. In Buddhism, there is a truth that everything in the world is impermanent, meaning it is always changing. Nothing lasts forever. Opportunities come and go like a flower that blooms today, but may wither tomorrow. If we wait until everything is perfect to act, then perhaps we will never have enough favorable conditions in our entire lives. Letting go of hesitation doesn't mean acting recklessly, but trusting in ourselves. Believing that we can learn from every step, whether successful or unsuccessful. It's all karma that helps us grow. There's a beautiful image I want to share with you. Imagine a boat standing still in the water. The water flows turbulently. Waves push the boat. Wind blows the sails. But the boat doesn't go anywhere, simply because the helmsman hasn't decided which way to steer. Time passes, and the boat only gets caught in a whirlpool, never reaching any shore. Human life is the same. If we constantly stand still in hesitation, we will be swept into the vortex of time and never move forward. Some ask, so how do we let go of hesitation? In fact, the most important thing is to return to ourselves. When the mind is filled with too many delusive thoughts, we feel blurred. But if we know how to stop, breathe, recognize fear, and embrace it, we will gradually see what we truly desire. The Buddha taught that wisdom arises only when the mind is tranquil. So, practice sitting down and listening to your heart. Once you are clear about what you want, trust that step. And don't be discouraged even if it's challenging. Practicing letting go of hesitation also means accepting that life is not perfect. If we wait until we are certain we cannot make a mistake before acting, the opportunity will have already passed. Just take one step at a time. If you make a mistake, correct it. If you fall, get up. Just like learning to ride a bicycle, no one rides steadily the very first time. But if you don't start pedaling, you will never learn how to ride. In daily life, you can start with small things. When faced with the choice of exercising or staying in bed, choose to get up immediately. If you intend to call a relative you haven't contacted in a long time, don't hesitate. Pick up the phone. When you want to learn a new skill, don't wait until you have enough time, enough money, enough readiness. Start immediately with the simplest steps. These small actions will train you in decisiveness. Gradually, you will find yourself more confident, less hesitant in big decisions. Once you have learned to let go of hesitation, you will feel a new source of energy in your mind. No longer bound by vague fear, you will find your mind light, clear, and full of enthusiasm. Each day that passes will no longer be wasted on what if or if only questions. Instead, it will be filled with the proactive courage to live fully in every moment. And then you will realize a very simple truth. Opportunity is not far away at all. It is always present in this very moment. As long as we let go of hesitation and dare to act now, life will naturally open new doors. So, dear friend, if today you are standing before a decision, don't let hesitation imprison you any longer. Remember the story of the bus Fong missed. Remember the image of the boat standing still in the current. Let your heart strongly steer your own boat so that you have no regrets when you look back. Because only by daring to act in the present can you truly live fully every breath of human life. When you know how to let go of hesitation, you will see that the path ahead is no longer so frightening. Each step becomes lighter, and your soul is filled with peace. Because only by daring to go will you arrive. Only by daring to sow will you reap. And only by daring to live is it truly living. Perhaps in this life, what causes people suffering is not only material loss, career failure, or unexpected misfortunes, but also a very silent, hard to recognize suffering that gnaws away at us every day. That is a small-minded heart, narrowness in outlook, thought, and how we treat others. A person who carries small-mindedness often finds it difficult to experience complete joy because they constantly view life with a calculating eye, weighing gains and losses. Just a small benefit, an unintentional word from someone, or an action they disapprove of is enough for them to hold a grudge and never forget. They're like a very small sigh. Just a little more water, and it overflows, with no more room to contain anything. How can a soul like that be broad enough for happiness to enter? Small-mindedness not only causes one's own suffering, but also gradually pushes others away. A generous person finds friends and affection wherever they go, because they bring others a sense of ease and comfort. A narrow-minded person, however, spreads only heaviness and resentment wherever they go. Gradually, they isolate themselves in a cold circle, with no one wanting to get close. They may appear strong externally, but deep down, their hearts are always cramped and lacking in love. In Buddhist teachings, small-mindedness is a form of greed, anger, and delusion. When we are greedy, afraid of losing our share, we easily develop selfishness. When we are angry, envying anyone who is better than us, we become narrow-minded. When we are deluded, not seeing the truth of impermanence, we cling to trivial things, causing ourselves pain. The Buddha once said that tolerance is like the ocean. No matter how many rivers flow into it, it does not run dry. Conversely, a small-minded heart is like a small well. Just a handful of dirt is enough to make the water murky. Therefore, to live happily, we first need to learn to let go of small-mindedness, opening our hearts to tolerance. Lin Ung Buddhist Dharma channel remembers once, during a talk, a Zen master shared that people are like a house. If the windows are small and dark, light cannot shine in. But if the windows are wide open, sun and wind rush in, and the house brightens up. Similarly, when our hearts are open and tolerant, even if life brings storms and tempests, there is always the light of joy and peace. To help you understand better, I will tell you the story of Mr. Quang from a village in northern Vietnam. Mr. Quang was the eldest of 2 brothers. Their parents passed away, leaving them a piece of land. Initially, they both planned to divide it equally, so each could build a house. But then, when measuring, the younger brother claimed that Mr. Quang's portion was larger and in a better location. The younger brother demanded to re-divide it. Meanwhile, Mr. Quang thought that the land their parents left should be divided equally. The disagreement became increasingly tense. The 2 brothers, once close, now frequently argued. Once, the younger brother, in anger, said directly that if Mr. Quang didn't yield, then there would be no more brotherhood. Mr. Quang was very sad. During sleepless nights, he thought about his parents' efforts in raising them, and about the bond of brotherhood they shared since childhood. Then one day, as he passed the village pagoda and heard the sound of the bell, his heart suddenly quieted. He remembered the teaching in the Buddhist scriptures. Wealth and land are also impermanent, here today, gone tomorrow. Only affection remains. With that thought, he decided to yield the better plot of land to his younger brother, keeping the smaller portion for himself. His relatives and neighbors were all surprised. Some called him foolish, but he just smiled, feeling light in his heart. Time passed. Mr. Quang continued to live a simple, peaceful life on his small piece of land. When he grew old and weak, it was his younger brother who came daily to care for him, providing medicine and support. The younger brother often said tearfully, "Thanks to your tolerance back then, I am able to repay you today. If we had quarreled to the very end, our brotherhood would probably have been broken, and when you needed me, I would have had no face to help." That story made many villagers reflect. In the end, everyone realized that kinship is more precious than self-interest. Tolerance does not make us lose out. On the contrary, it sows a seed of blessing so that when we face difficulties, we receive support and love in return. In life, some people are willing to lose an entire relationship for just a few dollars, a little fame, or a minor disagreement. They choose to stubbornly cling to small-mindedness, forgetting that affection is what nourishes the soul. True happiness does not lie in winning or losing, but in the ability to let go to find peace. Try to think, when we nitpick every word, every action of others, we are the ones who get tired first. Each time we remember, our heart aches, and our mind carries another burden. Meanwhile, if we know how to be tolerant, treating everything lightly, our minds will be at ease. Such tolerance is nothing less than a gift we give to ourselves. In daily life, we may encounter very small situations. A colleague speaks carelessly. A friend forgets an appointment. A family member unintentionally does something that displeases us. If we are small-minded, we will cling to that discomfort, letting it fester all day, even for years. But if we know how to smile with tolerance, everything will pass like a fleeting breeze. The Buddha once taught that hatred cannot be dispelled by hatred. Only love can do that. A small-minded person holds hatred in their heart, like holding a hot coal. The tighter they grasp it, the more they burn themselves. A tolerant person knows how to let go, like dropping a stone into water, letting it sink to the bottom, while the surface of the lake becomes clear and calm. Practicing tolerance is not easy, but we can start with the smallest things. When someone does something that irritates us, try taking a deep breath and telling ourselves that we too have made mistakes. We too have made others sad. When we understand that everyone has flaws, we will find it easier to forgive. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. Listen to their story. Perhaps behind that action is a suffering you never knew about. Another way to cultivate tolerance is to practice loving kindness meditation. Every day, you can spend a few minutes sitting quietly, silently, sending wishes for peace to yourself, to loved ones, and even to those who trouble you. When the mind of loving kindness spreads, small-mindedness will gradually dissolve, replaced by generosity and gentleness. When you learn to live tolerantly, you will find life much lighter. What once seemed significant now seems like dust blown by the wind. Those around you will feel the energy of peace, and they will draw closer to you, bringing love and connection. You will no longer have to live in the loneliness you created, but instead, you will gain more friends and more joy. Remember that letting go of small-mindedness is not losing anything, but expanding your soul to receive more love, peace, and happiness. All of this can only enter a heart that is broad and tolerant enough, and being tolerant with others is sowing blessings for oneself. Because karma always operates. Today we give forgiveness. Tomorrow we will receive tolerance from others. So if you are still holding on to some narrowness in your heart, try letting it go right now. Think of Mr. Kwang's story to see that kinship is more precious than self-interest. Let your heart be as vast as the ocean, so that joy and peace have a place to reside. Because only when we learn to practice tolerance can we truly have everything. Perhaps everyone in life has at least once fallen into a state of doubt. We doubt if our loved ones are truly sincere. We doubt if our friends are genuinely good to us or just taking advantage. We doubt colleagues, superiors, and even ourselves. Living in doubt is like living in a house with a leaky roof. Rain and wind seep through every crack, leaving our hearts never dry or peaceful. When night falls, instead of peacefully closing our eyes, our hearts tremble with all sorts of imaginary dangers. People say that the greatest suffering doesn't necessarily come from external circumstances, but from the incessant thoughts that gnaw at our hearts. And doubt is one of the most toxic of these thoughts. The Buddha taught that all afflictions arise from delusive thoughts. Doubt is no different. It arises when we are not clear enough to see the truth, not tolerant enough to place faith in goodness, in karma, in the path we have chosen. A seed of doubt, if nourished by worry and fear, will grow into a large tree. Its roots will dig deep into the heart. Its branches will obscure the light of wisdom, leaving us constantly dark and restless. And this restlessness not only burns the inner self, but also destroys surrounding relationships, from friendships, family ties, to love and kinship. In Buddhist teachings, the Honored One once mentioned the 5 hindrances, which are 5 mental factors that obscure the human mind, preventing it from being clear and wisdom from awakening. One of these is doubt, or skepticism. When the mind is clouded by doubt, we can no longer see our path, nor do we have enough strength to believe in ourselves and others. A wise person will recognize that doubt is not a sign of intelligence, but sometimes a doorway to suffering and separation. There is a story I want to tell you. The story of Ms. Mai, a woman from a rural area in central Vietnam. Her husband worked far away, coming home only a couple of times a month. The separation often sparked doubt in her. If her husband didn't answer the phone, she would immediately imagine he was up to something shady. If she heard someone vaguely talk about how men in faraway places easily change their minds, she would become angry and argue. Phone calls, meant to strengthen their bond, became tense arguments. Their family gradually lost its laughter and warmth. One day, in her suffering, she went to a nearby pagoda to confide. The gentle master listened and softly said, "Doubt is like adding salt to a bowl of soup. Just a little bit can obscure the sweetness of happiness. We must learn to believe in karma, believe in our own heart, and believe in the path we have chosen. Only with faith can there be peace. Without faith, even when together, one will still feel lonely." Hearing these words, Ms. Mai burst into tears. From that day on, she made it a habit to look at her husband with faith instead of suspicion. Whenever she felt anxious, she would chant the Buddha's name, entrusting her restlessness to each sacred name. Before long, her family returned to a state of peace and harmony. Daily calls were no longer interrogations, but opportunities for sharing. Smiles appeared more often, and her children also felt the peace in their home. Ms. Mai's story is proof of the Buddha's teaching. Believe in karma, keep the mind pure, and you will find peace. Indeed, faith is the strong bond that connects all relationships. People can live thousands of miles apart, but as long as they maintain faith, they still feel as if they are beside each other. Conversely, even when living close together in the same house, if their hearts are full of doubt, they will still feel a vast distance. You see, in love, doubt kills sweet emotions. In friendship, doubt destroys companionship, making everyone cautious and suspicious. In families, doubt creates invisible walls, preventing parents and children from sharing honestly. Even in communities, doubt makes people distant, jealous of each other, unable to build good things together. So, letting go of doubt is not only a gift for oneself, but also a preservation for all the relationships around us. Some ask, what if we trust the wrong person? What if the other person actually betrays us? The answer lies precisely in the law of karma. The Buddha taught that what you sow, you shall reap. We have faith. We live wholeheartedly, with sincerity. If, by chance, one day someone betrays us, the karmic consequence will return to them. We don't need to turn our lives into hell because of suspicion. For karma is fairer than any human control. Believe that if you can keep your mind pure, even if you encounter heartbreaking situations, you can still stand up, still move forward with ease, letting go of doubt. This does not mean becoming naive and unwary, but learning to use wisdom to see people, to use compassion to treat others, and to use faith to nurture relationships. Caution. Stemming from wisdom helps us maintain appropriate distance, but doubt stemming from fear only binds us. Between these two, which do you choose? Trust with awareness, or doubt with restlessness? One practice you can adopt is, whenever doubt arises in your mind, pause and take a deep breath. Ask yourself, do I have clear evidence for this, or is it just imagination? If it's just speculation, let it float away like a cloud across the sky. Then return to the belief that everything has a cause and effect, and whatever happens is an opportunity for us to learn, to grow. Each time you do this, you're sowing a seed of faith, and gradually the garden in your mind will blossom with flowers of peace. You can also practice chanting the Buddha's name whenever your heart is restless. Each chant is a reminder. Believe in the Buddha. Believe in the path of truth, goodness, and beauty. Believe in your own strength to overcome. When the mind is fully placed on the sacred name, Namo Amitabha Buddha, the waves of doubt will subside. Like the surface of a lotus pond, when the wind stops blowing, it clearly reflects the moonlight. When the mind is at peace, faith will naturally manifest. In everyday life, try to look at those around you with kind eyes, instead of assuming everyone can deceive you. Think that they are trying their best to live well in their circumstances. When you give trust, you will receive sincerity. Conversely, if you only sow doubt, you will receive distance and closed hearts. Faith has the power to spread like sunlight. Once it radiates, darkness must retreat. Lin Ung, Buddhist Dharma channel, believes that by the time you hear this, you will have realized that you have often caused yourself suffering due to baseless suspicions. Perhaps at work, you doubted colleagues' sincerity, and so you isolated yourself. Perhaps in your family, You suspected your spouse's faithfulness. And so both of you sank into suffering. And perhaps you have even doubted your own abilities, locking yourself in the shell of low self-esteem. But do you know, just by replacing doubt with faith, the path ahead will open wide. Believe that you deserve happiness. Believe that this life still holds many good things. Believe that if you keep your mind pure, karma will protect you. Then you will feel lighthearted. Life will be peaceful. Letting go of doubt is opening the door to peace. Because when we have faith, we have the motivation to move forward. When we have faith, we see relationships become stronger. When we have faith, we truly feel the simple happiness that exists every day. And when we have faith, we truly live in the light of the Dharma, no longer floundering in the darkness of endless doubts. You may not be rich, powerful, or own many things in life. But if you have pure faith, you have everything. Because faith is the foundation of peace, the root of happiness. Letting go of doubt to nurture that faith is a firm step on the path to finding peace. Sometimes we sit with ourselves and ask why some wounds in our hearts are so hard to heal. Sometimes what pains us is not a slap, a fall, or any material loss, but simply a word, a phrase uttered unconsciously, seemingly light, but sometimes as heavy as a stone falling on another's heart. We've been hurt by someone's harsh words, and that entire day became gloomy. There were also times when we hurt others so deeply that they carried that wound for a lifetime, just because of an unintentional remark. And do you realize that sometimes a sweet word, a timely encouragement, can lift a person who is about to give up on life? In Buddhism, there is a concept called karma of speech. Karma is not only created by actions or thoughts, but even speech is one of the three main sources that create karmic force. Karma of speech is what we sow from our mouths, from our words, from our daily communication. Words can be fresh flowers, bringing joy, peace, and connecting people. But they can also be sharp knives that hurt, divide, and even push a vulnerable person to the brink of despair. The Buddha once taught that if one cannot speak kind words, it is better to remain silent, because wrong words can cause unforeseeable consequences, not only in this life, but also leaving an imprint in future lives. There's a boy named Tuan, whom I want to tell you about. Tuan was a part witty student, well liked by his friends. But Tuan had a bad habit. He often used teasing and sarcastic remarks to entertain himself and those around him. At first, everyone would laugh, thinking they were just harmless jokes, but gradually, those taunts became sharper, turning into words that hurt others. One day, during recess, Tuan made a harsh remark to a classmate. Already insecure and sensitive, that remark was like a knife plunged into the other boy's heart, causing him to feel ashamed and drop out of school for a long time. It was then that Tuan realized that just a careless, thoughtless remark from him could turn another person's life upside down. Tuan was filled with regret, and from then on began to cultivate a new habit. He learned to speak more kindly, more sincerely, and always reminded himself, words spoken must be like sowing seeds of compassion, seeds of encouragement, not sharp knives. Tuan realized that a gentle word could brighten someone else's sky. A word of encouragement could help a broken soul stand up. And from then on, Tuan gradually became a truly beloved friend by everyone. No longer because of his intelligence or quick wit, but because of the heart in his words, because of the warmth radiating from every phrase. If you look back at life, you will see how powerful words are. A family can fall apart just because of hateful, uncontrolled words. A friendship can crack just because of misinterpreted, harsh remarks. A love affair can end just because of careless words spoken in anger. And it is also words that can save a marriage, can strengthen a friendship, can heal a wounded heart. There are people who live their entire lives just to hear an apology, but never receive one. And so, they live in eternal suffering. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha once taught that victory by words only brings hatred. Patience brings peace. When we utter harsh words in a fit of anger, we think we have won. We have expressed our frustrations. But in reality, we only sow more resentment. The other person is hurt, and our own joy doesn't last long. After that comes regret, distance, and loss. Conversely, if we know how to hold our tongue, how to speak modestly and gently, what we receive in return is inner peace and lasting affection with those around us. Saying this does not mean we must remain silent in all situations or always yield to let others dominate. The Buddha taught that sincere words, spoken at the right time, in the right place, to the right person, and truthful, are truly beneficial words. A wise word is a word that is just enough, neither too much nor too little, harming no one, but also not hiding the truth. We can offer suggestions, we can criticize, we can express opinions, but remember that how we speak is as important as what we say. Try to imagine how the atmosphere in a family would change if every day we spoke words of love, encouragement, and gratitude to our loved ones instead of just complaining or criticizing. How long would a friendship last if every time we met friends, we spoke words of encouragement instead of teasing? How much lighter and more harmonious would work be if we used kind language instead of competitiveness? Words can truly create a more beautiful world if we know how to use them correctly. So, how to cultivate right speech in daily life? First, we need to stop and observe ourselves. Before uttering a sentence, ask yourself, is this word necessary? Will it bring benefit? Will it hurt others? If the answer is no, then choose silence. Silence is also a form of letting go. Silence is not weakness, but wisdom. Because sometimes silence helps us preserve relationships, affection, and peace. Next, practice speaking gently. It doesn't need to be flowery. It doesn't need to be elaborate. Sincerity is enough. A timely thank you, a prompt apology, a shayito but sincere word of encouragement can bring infinite joy to others. And when we sow these seeds of compassion, we ourselves also receive joy. Because according to the law of karma, what you sow, you shall reap. Sow evil words, and you will reap alienation. Sow good words, and you will receive love. Finally, remember that every word is a seed sown in the hearts of others. Whatever seed we sow, that plant will grow. If we sow seeds of doubt, envy, then the tree of hatred will grow. If we sow seeds of love, kindness, then the tree of happiness will grow. Cultivating right speech is not a 1 or 2 day walk, but a long process of training. But once we start, we will feel lighter. Relationships will be more harmonious, and our souls more peaceful. So, dear friend, choose beautiful words for yourself, because those words not only nourish others, but also nourish your own soul. A gentle word can become a light in someone's darkness. A word of encouragement can save a life, and an apology can heal a deep wound. Let go of hateful words to sow kind words, for that is the surest path to peace and love. Have you ever wondered why human life always seems to be caught in suffering? The poor suffer from lack. The rich suffer from worrying about keeping their wealth. Parents suffer for their children. And children suffer from the constraints of family. Lovers suffer from separation. And married couples suffer from daily frictions. Thinking deeply, it seems everyone has their own suffering. And if we delve deeper, we will find that these sufferings don't just come from external circumstances, but largely from within our own minds. That is the root of the 3 poisons: greed, anger, and delusion. Greed makes us never feel enough. No matter how much money, how many achievements, we still feel a lack, still want more. Anger makes us easily irritated, easily resentful over just a word or a small action. And delusion is the ignorance of not clearly seeing the nature of impermanence, clinging to what is not real, and thus binding ourselves in the cycle of samsara. These 3 poisons are like 3 fires burning in the human heart. The Buddha clearly pointed out that greed, anger, and delusion are the root cause of all suffering. It is not external circumstances that make us suffer, but these 3 fires burning in our hearts that make our lives heavy. In the scriptures, the Buddha taught in the 4 Noble Truths that suffering is the first truth that everyone must acknowledge. And the cause of suffering is craving, which is desire, attachment. Once there is greed, anger will arise when things don't go as desired. And then delusion will arise when we don't understand life correctly. These 3 are like 3 heavy stones tied to the soul, making every step we take slow and tired. We want happiness, but unintentionally carry these 3 stones in our pockets, then complain, life is too hard, too heavy. I want to tell you a short story about a kind master named An and a young novice monk who had just joined the monastery. The novice was intelligent, but had a quick temper. Whenever the master or his peers admonished him, he would often flush, talk back, and even angrily walk away. When he saw a fellow monk studying better, he would become envious and annoyed, thinking the master was biased. One day, after the novice had just argued with a fellow monk, Master An called him over, placed 3 large stones in front of him, and said, "Put these 3 stones in your pocket, and carry them everywhere for a day." The novice was surprised, but obeyed. After just 1 morning, he felt his back aching, his steps heavy, and he didn't want to do anything. In the afternoon, the master called him back and asked, "What do you feel?" The novice replied, "I feel so tired, master. Everywhere I go, it's so heavy." Master An smiled. That is the image of when you let greed, anger, and delusion reside in your heart. Just as heavy as these 3 stones are, the 3 poisons in the mind are even heavier. If you don't know how to let go, you will have to live your whole life in fatigue. If you want lightness, if you want liberation, the only way is to put them down. Master An's lesson startled the novice into awakening. From then on, whenever he felt anger rising, he would remember the stone in his pocket. Take a deep breath and let it go. Whenever he felt envy arise, he would contemplate that it too was just a stone binding him, and then put it down. Thanks to this practice, he gradually became gentler, more endearing, and his own mind also became more open. His wisdom brighter. That story is also a mirror for us to reflect on ourselves. Many times we suffer, not because life is too heavy, but because we carry too many stones in our hearts. We cling to greed, wanting more, wanting others to do as we wish, wanting life to be as we desire. We cling to anger. If someone acts contrary to our wishes, we get angry. If a word displeases us, we react. We cling to delusion, thinking that everything will stay with us forever, forgetting that impermanence is an obvious truth. And these 3 things have made our journey incredibly tiresome. How can we let go of these 3 poisons? First, we need to contemplate. Whenever greed arises, look carefully to see if that greed will bring lasting happiness. Some people, due to greed of money, lose their family, lose their friends. Some people, due to greed for fame, live in worry and deceit, never finding peace. Looking deeply, we see that greed brings nothing but restlessness. When anger arises, try to observe your body and mind. Your heart beats faster, your face flushes, your mind races. You harm yourself before harming others. And after a fit of anger, usually only regret remains. Thus, anger is never a solution. When delusion leads, remember that nothing in this life is permanent. Homes, possessions, fame, all are impermanent. Loved ones will also eventually pass away. This body is also just dust. Recognizing this truth, we will be less deluded, less clinging. Meditation is an effective method to let go of greed, anger, and delusion. When sitting quietly and observing the breath, we can clearly see each stream of emotion in the mind. When greed arises, we smile at it and let it pass. When anger arises, we just acknowledge it and let it dissipate. When delusion arises, we contemplate impermanence, suffering, and karma, so that our minds become clear. Meditation is like sunlight. When it shines, darkness naturally disperses. And thanks to this long-term practice, our minds become open, light, and wisdom gradually arises. To put it metaphorically, greed, anger, and delusion are like 3 poisonous snakes living in everyone's mind. If we feed them, giving them food every day with attachment, with anger, with delusion, they will grow larger and bite us back. But if we let them starve, not giving them food, they will gradually weaken and die. Letting go of greed, anger, and delusion means not allowing them to grow strong, but instead nurturing compassion, joy, and equanimity. When the mind has compassion, greed is difficult to arise. When there is joy, anger is difficult to exist. When there is equanimity, delusion is difficult to obscure. Life will be so different. If every day we practice letting go of these 3 poisons, we will feel lighter, less afflicted, We will no longer be overly concerned when others are better than us, because greed has been released. We will no longer easily get angry, because anger has subsided. We will no longer cling delusively, because delusion has dissolved. At that time, a vast space will open in our hearts, where wisdom can manifest and peace can overflow. You can try it today. When a fit of anger arises, instead of uttering harsh words, take a deep breath and silently tell yourself, "This is just a stone. I can put it down." When you feel an excessive craving for something, ask yourself, is it truly necessary? Or is it just a fleeting greed? When you find yourself clinging to a relationship or a material possession, remember the Buddhist teaching. All things are impermanent. Nothing lasts forever. The path to liberation is not far away. It is not on high mountains or in distant doctrines. It lies in every moment that we can let go of greed, anger, and delusion. Each time we put down a big stone, we take another step towards peace. And when we can let go of all three, the path to liberation will appear before us, wide and boundless. So, dear friend, if you find life too heavy, try looking into your pocket to see what stones you are carrying. Don't blame life. Don't complain that the path is too difficult, because it may be that you are making your own heart heavy. Be brave and set down the stones of greed, anger, and delusion, and you will see that by simply letting go, the path becomes wonderfully light. Letting go of greed, anger, and delusion is letting go of the root of suffering so that wisdom and peace can blossom in the mind. Dear friend, everyone's life will pass through many rough patches. There are times when we feel like we have everything: wealth, fame, love, friends. But then one day, just a small event can make us feel like we've lost everything. A sudden illness, an unexpected breakup, a collapse of the work we poured our heart and soul into. At that moment, we realize that life doesn't give everyone everything we hope for. The more we cling, the more we suffer. And it is in those moments that seem like the greatest loss, if we know how to let go, that we truly gain everything. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is clinging. We suffer not because of the event itself, but because our mind wants it to go our way. When it doesn't go as we wish, we complain, we torment ourselves, we resent. But life is inherently impermanent. The nature of all phenomena is change. Nothing can be held forever. So, letting go is not losing, but returning to the true nature of life. When we let go, we feel lighter. When we release, we truly have open hands to receive better things. I remember once hearing a simple story about a poor woman in a small village. She only had one clay pot for drinking water for her whole family. One day, while fetching water from the well, the pot accidentally slipped from her hand and shattered. She collapsed and cried, thinking her family would now lack water. But then, in her despair, she looked up and saw a kind neighbor bringing her a copper pot, much sturdier and more durable. She suddenly understood that if her clay pot hadn't broken, she probably would never have gotten a better one. From a loss, she gained something more precious. Life is like that. Often, losses are just opportunities for us to embrace new things. In Buddhist teachings, this is called karma, or cause and condition. When conditions converge, things exist. When conditions dissipate, things disappear. What we consider lost is actually just an expired condition, making way for a new one. If we know how to let go, we will clearly see this process, no longer clinging in vain. A person who knows how to let go is not a coward, but one who bravely faces the truth of impermanence, accepts the law of cause and effect, and lives in harmony with it. Try to imagine, if we tightly hold a handful of sand, the tighter we squeeze, the more sand slips through our fingers. But if we open our hand, the sand remains peacefully in our palm, not lost at all. Similarly, when we know how to let go, we don't lose. On the contrary, we maintain inner peace. That peace is the most precious asset, not fleeting external things. Many people spend their entire lives chasing money, fame, and power, only to eventually lose themselves. They think having more will make them happier, but the more they have, the more restless their hearts become. The Buddha taught that greed is like drinking seawater. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. Only when we stop do we cease to be thirsty. Letting go of greed, we will find happiness in very small things. A warm meal with family, a loved one's smile, a worry-free sleep. Happiness is not far away. It is right in the present moment. As long as we let go of illusions, we will immediately see it. A philosopher once said, "Life is like a train journey. What we possess is just luggage we carry. If we carry too much, we will be tired and find it hard to go far. Those who know how to let go of excess luggage will have a lighter, freer journey, enjoying the scenery along the way. But those who cling tightly will one day be exhausted, with no energy left to admire life's beauty." The valuable thing is that when we know how to let go, we not only gain peace of mind, but also health and happiness. Many scientific studies today also prove that people who hold much resentment, envy, and worry are often more prone to illness and have shorter lifespans. Meanwhile, those who know how to forgive, accept, and live lightly have an optimistic spirit and a healthy body. What the Buddha taught more than 2,500 years ago is now confirmed by science. A peaceful mind leads to a healthy body. Do you find that sometimes just one sleepless night due to worry is enough to make you tired for the entire next day? But if you let go in your heart, sleep peacefully, and wake up with new energy to live, then this whole life is the same. If we constantly cling to sorrows, hatred, and failures, life will be full of darkness. But if we let go, each day is a new beginning, bright and full of hope. Zen Buddhist Dharma channel wants you to remember that letting go does not mean giving up. It's not that we do nothing or don't strive, but that we don't cling to the outcome. We put in our best effort, but know that everything depends on conditions. Doing without clinging. That is true freedom. Like a farmer who sows seeds, cares for them and waters them, but doesn't force the seeds to sprout immediately. He believes that if there is enough sun, enough rain, enough conditions, the plant will grow. Living like that, our minds will be at peace, no longer tormented. And when we know how to let go, we truly open our hearts to love. A resentful person finds it hard to love anyone because their mind is still obscured by darkness. But when we forgive, when we let go, we will find our hearts larger. We love ourselves, love others, live in harmony with all. That is a blessing that only by knowing how to let go can we obtain. Dear friend, at this point, I just want to send one simple message. Knowing how to let go in life is having everything. Because when we let go, we have peace, health, happiness, and blessings. Letting go is not losing, but liberating. Letting go is not an end, but a beginning for a new journey, lighter and more peaceful. Life is short. Don't let useless sorrows make us waste precious days. Learn to let go, to see that even in every breath, we already have happiness. May all of us know how to let go, to live peacefully and happily in every moment. May each person find peace within their own mind so as not to be swept away by life in its impermanent calculations. May all sentient beings be free from suffering, find peace, and live in the light of wisdom and compassion.